Today I'm going to talk to you about how to buy a property in this extreme seller's market. And I'm going to get started right now. Hey everyone, my name is Jamey Prezzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to buy a property in this crazy seller's market. But first, before I get started, if this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another update. We do put out new videos every week. Also, use the link in our information box and download our free guides today. If you would like to schedule a free chat with me and you would like, you can use the Calendly link in the information box. Also, I have my email and telephone number there. Feel free to call or text or email anytime. We're always here to be a resource for you. Okay, let's get started. What is an extreme seller's market? So generally speaking, an extreme seller's market is where there are more buyers than there are sellers. And that is what we are experiencing in many local niche real estate markets within our city. Many homes have multiple offers as soon as they hit the market. And until inventory increases, I think we're going to stay in this extreme seller's market. There are just more buyers than there are homes coming on the market, and it is creating a high demand for these properties, lots of bidding wars, and lots of very frustrated buyers. A lot of times people will say to me, hey, Jamey, how do you know that it really is an extreme seller's market? Well, I'm a numbers person, and Ognjen and I look at the numbers every single day. And we always look at the numbers when we're working for our buyers or our sellers. And we have to go very hyper-local here because there are many different types of properties and price points and neighborhoods. So this is a general overview of Miami-Dade single-family homes and condominiums. I did combine it all together. I'm sure Broward would look the same, if not a little bit worse, because they have even fewer homes on the market most of the time. But this is how we know because of the data. Generally speaking, if you're around 5 to 6 months, it's a fairly neutral market. That means, homes are coming on the market, buyers are buying. It's not in one extreme, one way or the other. But once you start going under 5 months and getting into the 3s and 2s here, where you can see we have been since last year, and now we're even lower. It was lower in December, then it went up a little bit because, people put the properties on the market at the beginning of the year. And now we're back down again to 2.6. That is an extreme seller's market. That means there are only 2 months of inventory on the market right now. And it creates a very challenging situation for buyers to buy. But the good news is we do help buyers buy every single month. So don't worry. But there are some definite strategies that you have to really think about. And you have to go into this process with a very specific mindset. And you really have to know what you're doing. You have to make sure you're working with skilled professionals who can guide you. Planning in advance. I'm just going to talk about this for just a second because everybody knows you have to plan in advance. I'm a realtor, so I'm going to say use a real estate agent. But in today's market, you really need an agent more than ever. And it's very important to make sure that you plan in advance. And I will tell you, I also work for sellers. And sometimes buyers will show up and they don't have an agent, which is fine. I'm happy to help them. But I always find them at a big disadvantage because very often they don't know the market. No one has prepared them on what to expect. A lot of times they're not pre-approved if they need financing. They don't understand the property that they're looking at. And until someone educates them and helps them through the process, it can be a little bit complicated. I had a buyer recently who was interested in making an offer on one of our listings. And by the time he came back to make an offer, it was already under contract, but he wanted to offer almost $50,000 less than what the property was listed for. And there were offers way over, and people had pre-approval letters and documentation. And people don't realize what a disadvantage they put themselves in when they're not working with a trusted professional. Obviously, you do not have to use a real estate agent to purchase real estate. But in today's market, I highly recommend that you find, whether it's with us or another realtor, find a trusted professional who can help you through the process to make sure that you're successful, because it can be very tedious right now. So number one, hire a good buyer's agent. Number two, if you need financing, you really need to get this organized in advance. If you need financing, especially in our area, there are a lot of little details to know. And it really depends on how you're purchasing the property. Are you buying it as a primary home or a second home or an investment property? How much money are you planning to put down? Does that even make sense for the type of loan that you're getting? If you're buying to a condominium building, is the building eligible for financing? And there's just a lot of little details involved in financing in our area, and it depends on the type of loan you're getting, how you intend to purchase the property, and the type of property you're buying. And why is this important? Because if you're making offers on properties with financing and the listing agent is saying, no, we're only taking cash offers because the building has this going on, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're spending time looking at the wrong property. So it's important to make sure that you're being guided in your planning and you know what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to waste a lot of time and get super frustrated very fast. Also, I even sometimes have my buyers reach out to me and say, hey, I saw that property. I want to go see it. And then I look at the details inside of it and I see it's not eligible for financing. So there are a lot of little nuances with buying real estate. And in today's market, you want to make sure, especially with everything going on, that you spend time looking at properties that you can actually buy. And also with this, it's very important to understand the repairs of the property and the type of property that you are able to take on, depending on if you need financing or not. Also, the cost of insurance. Sometimes people will say, hey, I really want to buy in that neighborhood, but when they find out that it's in flood zone, whatever, and it's going to cost this much per year for flood insurance, they're like, no, never mind, let's buy in that neighborhood where the flood insurance is not as expensive. So lots of details to cover, but planning in advance allows you and us as your agents to get laser focused on the type of properties that you want to buy, so you're not wasting time looking at a lot of properties that don't fit your criteria and ultimately your budget and your plans. In addition to that, your down payment and closing costs. This is why it's very important to do a detailed buyer consultation before you start looking at houses in person or through my FaceTime, which is what a lot of people do. Act fast and make offers even quicker. In today's market, you have to get out and see the properties immediately. If you wait until your schedule permits or until the weekend, there will probably already be multiple offers on the property and they will already be in the process of considering those. So don't wait. Get out and act really fast. And also, acting really fast shows the seller side that you are very serious and you are going to work fast. If you take too much time to kind of mull over and go back and forth, if you need that, I get it, do it. But you will probably miss out on a lot of opportunities. Here's one pro tip. Recently, we had a couple and we really enjoyed working with them. They knew the comps of the neighborhood because we'd given them all the data over the last month while we were looking at properties and missing out on opportunities. And so a property came on the market, said, look, we want to make an offer today. We'll do this amount for the appraisal gap, which I'll get to that in just a second. And let's tell them they need to accept like now. And so, of course, that's what we did because we knew other offers would come in right behind them. And we put a very fast turnaround time and a very good offer in immediately. And they actually went under contract and closed on the property a few weeks ago. So they were just faster than everybody else. And the time to respond was very fast. Their offer was very good. It was a very good offer. Those are the type of offers that you have to make in today's market. Fast and highest and best immediately. Now, this is where people have a really hard time in today's market. And when I say highest and best, I mean it. Do not be shocked when you're advised to pay a little bit more than the asking price. And this is where knowing the market and understanding the level of inventory really comes into play. And this is where our expertise really comes into play in terms of guiding you in today's market. Sometimes paying above the asking price is the only way to get under contract. Sometimes I have people say, oh, I would have paid that amount. Well, you didn't. You offered lower in the hopes of negotiating, and sometimes you do not get a second chance. Sellers are overwhelmed. I work with a lot of sellers, and the offers fly in today, and people don't want to lose a good buyer that sometimes they see an offer come in and they're like, wow, that's really good. Let's go under contract. And you're not going to have time to negotiate back and forth because when the offers start flying in, it can be very overwhelming for sellers. So my recommendation is to always make your highest and best immediately and don't plan on being able to negotiate. Now, with that said, I have another buyer who went under contract this week, and we did negotiate a little bit, but we know that market. There was not as much action within that market and that price point and the type of property that she was buying. And so we had an opportunity to negotiate. But in these hot neighborhoods where inventory is flying, you have to make your highest and best immediately. It's not really what I like to say because we like to negotiate. That's what we like to do, but that's what it is right now. Okay. Now, when it comes to financing, a lot of people will say you should waive the appraisal contingency in order to go under contract. I'm not a fan of doing that. It makes me nervous for my buyers, but I ultimately let them make the call on what they want to do. But I've been in situations where I've had two appraisers go out on the exact same day and appraise the property in different ways because from what I've always been told, appraising is an art, not an exact science. And very often in today's market, properties are not appraising because the market is moving so fast and appraisers use the values over the last 6 months typically. And so properties are under appraising. And so you have to prepare for that. Now, what I do recommend is to use the appraisal contingency, but then also add in an amount, like a gap. Like if it appraised less than this amount, you would still be willing to cover up to this amount. You may not get every property doing it that way. And again, ultimately, it's your decision on what you want to do, but I'm not a fan of waiving appraisal contingencies. I think it puts way too much risk on the buyer, but that's my opinion. So next, looking for homes under your budget. Now, if you're in a market and you're in a neighborhood where there are only so many properties coming on the market every single week, and you're already at the top of your budget, it's going to be very hard to find a property in that neighborhood unless you're willing to find some extra money somewhere to pay over. So I would just say you're going to get really frustrated doing that. So try to expand a little bit, maybe change some of your criteria, some of your expectations in terms of what you're going to buy, and have maybe just a few different options so that you're not just limited to one area at the top of your budget. And looking for homes under your budget allows you to actually compete. So you can actually pay more than, being already at the top of your budget. This is something that we've been very successful in doing lately. So we've been digging and finding off-market properties for our buyers because look, you have to get creative. People are trusting you to help them find a property. And so sometimes we are finding properties that are not listed on the MLS any longer. We are reaching out to seller agents who we know specialize in certain neighborhoods. We know, that they know who is planning to sell in the future. Maybe someone was disappointed about the process, but they would still be interested in selling. So finding off-market properties is a very good way to find options and options where there's not already a lot of competition. Buying a property in an extreme seller's market is not for the faint of heart, but we are more than happy to guide you through the process. We have a lot more tips to help you do this successfully. Our buyers are successful all the time. Just requires a little bit of planning, strategic advice, and thinking outside the box. My name is Jamey Prezzi. This is my husband, Ognjen Prezzi. We work together as a real estate team. You can find us online on Instagram at The Prezzis or our website, theprezzis.com. That's it for today, and I will see you soon.